To use GBTimelapse AutoRamp feature with precision bulb exposures, it needs to know the camera's minimum bulb time. A camera's minimum bulb time is the shortest possible bulb duration. It also needs to know the camera's minimum accurate bulb time so that it can switch from a preset shutter speed to an equivalent bulb exposure time. These two bulb times are different for each Canon camera model. GBTimelapse comes with default values for both of these bulb times. In this video I'll show you how they're determined. For this demo I'm using a Canon 5D Mark II. First I'll determine the minimum bulb time. I've set the AV and the ISO to give a decent exposure for shutter speeds between 1/10 and 1 second. I have the auto exposure mode set to bulb and a bulb exposure time set of 0.5 seconds. I'll capture an image. This is giving a luminance of about 157. Now I'll gradually decrease the bulb time and the luminance should decrease. Here I'll set it to 0.4 seconds. It dropped to 143. I'll set it to 0.3 seconds. It dropped to 125 at 0.2 seconds. 97. So it's decreasing as I'm decreasing this time at 0.1 seconds. Down to 62 at 0.09. Okay, it dropped a little bit to 57 at 0.08. So 54, so it's not changing very much. I'm going to say that the minimum practical bulb time is 1/10 of a second for this camera. See, there is some variation between images. That's because of variations in actually setting the aperture. Now I'll determine the bulb switch time. So I'll set it to manual exposure, single release, at 1/10 of a second. Gives a luminance of 56, which is less than the 61 from the bulb exposure time. I'll set it to 0.2 seconds. That's an exposure of 94. If I go to bulb at 0.2 seconds, gives 99, so it's a little brighter. So it's not accurate at 0.2 seconds. What about at 0.3? At 0.3 it's 122, and in single release manual at 0.3 seconds, 125. So that's pretty close. That's just a couple of percent. So I'm going to say that the bulb switch time should be 0.3 seconds. If you look in the camera profile for this camera, under the Advanced tab, you'll see that the default setting is 0.1 seconds for the minimum bulb time and 0.3 seconds for the default bulb switch time. If I look in AutoRamp and click the Reset button, you'll see it sets the default switch to bulb time at 0.3 seconds. So if you're using AutoRamp and switching from a set TV setting, when it gets to 0.3 seconds it'll switch to bulb mode. That way there won't be any change in luminance when it switches from a TV value to a bulb value. If I set this down to 0.1 seconds, it will work, but there might be a jump in luminance value when it switches. You can set it at the lower value when you're strictly doing bulb exposures, but if you're going to be switching from settings to bulb exposures, you should set this to the switch time. So that's how you determine a camera's minimum bulb time and bulb switch time.